Well, we're continuing our study in Mishle, Proverbs, the wisdom given to Shlomo, Solomon, son of David, who built the temple, had 40 years of peace, no war. And the Lord can give you rest and give you peace. And the wonderful thing about that is anything else does not. There's only peace that can come from Adonai, from Yah, who gave him peace, gave him rest from wars and attacks and internal turmoil within the kingdom. And when God gives you peace, as he gave Solomon, you're not worried about a thing. But if you depend on others to bring you peace, a calm word, a good word, an encouraging word, you've all had the conversations with people. One moment it starts off right, and they say the wrong thing, and they take away your joy and your excitement. People can turn on you in a minute because they turn on themselves as well. You start worrying about something because you heard something or you read something or the news or guy in Israel hears the sirens. They had sirens last night throughout Israel. You know what that's like? Did you go to sleep and you don't know? You got to wake up and run into a bomb shelter. There's no peace that the world always says peace, don't they? What peace can they give you, really? How often have your friends given you peace? And more than likely, they've given you trouble and anxiety, stress and unrest and anger. How often are you a minister of peace? How often, when people see you, the first thing they want to do is hug you and embrace you because you bring peace? Blessed are those whose feet are shod in the preparation of the gospel of peace, peace, peace. Blessed are those that come with good news, the gospel, the good news. Even in the midst of a storm, in the middle of a sea, you're stranded in the middle of the sea. But a helicopter says help is on the way. A ship is on its way to you. They throw you a food supply, a lifeline, something to give you peace until you're rescued, something that gives you encouragement. The Lord gives you peace. He's called the Prince of Peace. Unlike his father David, though, the love in Shlomo's poetry is a little different, isn't it? It seems uneasy when you're reading about love from Solomon. It seems a little tense or terse. It's not like his father David. He was the apple of God's eye, a man after God's own heart. Shlomo's love writings seem a little bit more academic, don't they? Mechanical, a lack of the heart, but not David. Oh no. David's is the crush, the infatuation. It is raw, it is real, and it's deep. So you can never know love unless you know it from God's perspective. You can never know peace, for God is love and God is peace. The news, your job, you can count on God. Gives you peace if the Lord's got your back. It gives you peace if you're in the Lord's life raft. It gives you peace if you know the Lord is piloting the plane. Most of our rest and unrest is because the Lord isn't piloting the planes we're in. He's not the life raft we're using. He's not the friend that you're waiting for. You don't have to worry if you got in a car accident, if he's going to come at all. Your friends, he's not the one that says he's going to help you and get you out of that mess. And you're wondering, is he going to do it? Is he going to arrive in time? Is he going to send you a check? Is he going to come by with some money? If he's going to bring you a bag of groceries, if he's going to give you some water from a rock, you don't have to doubt it if God says he's going to do it. But you do, people, they may or may not show up. They may or may not give you water. They may or may not make it and give you groceries. They may or may not assist you. Who knows what's going on in their mind? They change their minds like the wind. And so you can never have peace in a president and a politician. Sometimes, of course, they surprise you, but that's the operative word, sometimes. But God never changes. And that's why so much of our stress is because we live in a world where oftentimes we are pretty much vacillating between the two, aren't we? One moment is to trust God, then you got to trust the mailman to deliver your mail. One moment you trust God, you got to trust the person to actually pick you up. One moment we trust God, and we live in a physical world that becomes an instrument of God's hand, an instrument to be used. So that's what to be used by God. That's why He says in the last days He's going to say to you, "When did I see you hungry, Lord, and didn't feed you?" Well, what do you mean? You were my hand to the homeless man. You were my hand to your friend. You were my hand to your neighbor. You were my hand to your friend. You were my hand to my church. You were supposed to do that. You were supposed to be faithful, obedient, an extension of me. So that when we are being an extension of the Lord, we should be reliable. We should be loyal. We should be faithful because you're representing God. Every ambassador represents the nation, and they are fired if they in any way abridge that representation. Companies fire employees who violate the code of ethics, regulations, rules, and policies. You abridge it. Judges are impeached off the court. Congressmen are recalled or expelled. Presidents are impeached or not reelected in. There is a consequence when you violate the principle of peace and loyalty and love in an organization when you join. Well, how is that any different with the Lord? But with all of us as believers, we live in a world and we're navigating in and out of the physical and the spiritual all day long. A phone call, someone at your door, a neighbor, a friend, an emergency. And you've got to immediately be like a military guy, ready to fight, ready to go back into the spiritual mode, not allow the flesh to rule you, because if not, you're not going to have peace and you're not going to have love. You're not going to do what you're supposed to do. I'll give those perfect peace whose desires are set on me, he says in Isaiah. We can trust God, I know. We can depend on God, oh yes. We know his love is nothing that can be compared to by anyone on this planet. We know the peace he gives is nothing that anybody can give you. But aren't we supposed to be, in the smallest way, a semblance and a representation of that? And aren't we, in every way, never supposed to allow ourselves to become discombobulated by this world and its evils and its politics and its religion and its discourse? Aren't we supposed to resist that distress and have peace in the midst of the storm of the world of politics, religion, family relations, job issues, economy, inflation, health, sickness, death? Because he gives us a peace that passeth all understanding. The peace I give, he said, do not give into the world. So we have to understand, when you're reading Proverbs, this is when you follow, and it's constantly invoking wisdom. Wisdom holds peace and love, grace and mercy. It holds it. It holds it. One hand peace and one hand love, being held by the wisdom, so that we're not distressed by friends, by enemies, by governments, by religion, by relationship, by the noise of the world or the noise of ourselves. The mind, how we think, has to have the peace, not the people, not your mommies and your daddies and brothers, wives, husbands, sisters, dogs. No, no, no. Mishle, the Proverbs, is trying to get us into this mindset of walking in wisdom. Then we will understand there is no peace in this world. There's some sunny days, yes. There is no peace with people. There are moments, yes. There is no real love in this world. There is with God. And the love with people It's iffy. It's up and down, in and out. It's moody. But God's love has got to be the core that you build your life on. Else you're going to be like a roller coaster with your friends, no matter how close you are, how good they are, how bad they are. You're always going to be on some kind of roller coaster. Some are going to be worse than others. But God is a steady ride. Eventually 11, he says, false scales are an abomination to Adonai, but accurate weights please him. You can't count on false scales. You can't count on people because they will use the false scales. And the Torah is often teaching that be fair, be just.
Well, so about false scales, you can kind of overread it and think we're talking just about, the scales in your grocery store that measure the food buffet like we did at Whole Foods, but it talks about anything that is unjust, whether it is hidden fees or renewing subscriptions that, oh, well, it already charged you. I didn't subscribe for that. Yes, but the payment went through. We cannot refund it. It's against policy. False scales. All of these things that you see in everyday marketplace situation, kiosks at the mall that selling you overpriced items that are of the cheapest, lowest quality, telling someone that this will do something that it does not do. It's everywhere. Con artists, internet scams.
Yeah, but legal, right? What's that statue that they use in America for the court? They have some kind of angel holding up a scales of justice. Same. So when you're using false scales in determining what somebody said. You're weighing on your own negativity, misinterpreting somebody's words. And many people do that on purpose because many people love the negative and will automatically assume that somebody is saying something bad or the worst about them. False scales. You're not judging that. You're not judging those words properly, what that person said. You're using false scales. And justice, Solomon was known for his judgment, scales of judgment, not using false scales, weighing things in your mind, not just about money and economy, but about ideas, philosophy, belief, truth.
And that includes let the punishment fit the crime, right? Well, don't let people off the hook and don't overly judge them. Sometimes you steal a loaf of bread, they sentence you to execution by firing squad. It's like, well, it all depends, right? It all comes down to the justice and judgment. Yeshua did not tell us don't judge. He was teaching us how to judge justly and rightfully. The Lord did promise, I will pay each man according to his deeds. I think there's a common misunderstanding of what hell is. Hell is not all equal. We've said it before, hell is just the separation from God, but then comes the punishment. Based on what you did, some will be tormented with a few blows, some will be given many blows. All depends on how you've performed and how evil you've been here on this earth.
That is so true. And Christians typically love to talk about hell a lot anyway. Uh, in Israel, it's not so much that it's more about the Lord. It's more about the kingdom of God. The kingdom, the king, the return of the king and his kingdom. And when you think about that, the return of the king and the kingdom, there are different judgments of you may have made it to the kingdom, but there's still judgments in the kingdom. The white throne judgment. Each one has to give an account, as you said. Each man, some of our works are not going to make it. Some of the things that we've done are not going to make it. And somebody is going to be in the penthouse in heaven, and somebody's not. Listen, every man will be given accordingly. Man means woman too, for you ladies that are listening. It's just the word that we use for the human race, mankind. And when you understand that, you live accordingly. We're saved by grace to perform good works. Oh, I say works don't save you. No, but works are the fruit of your salvation. Works are the fruit. It's a byproduct. If you are saved, well, you will be doing the work. If you are hired, you're doing the work. If you're not doing the work, then you're not hired. If anything, you're fired. First comes pride, then disgrace. But with the humble is wisdom. People forgive people that are humble too. People that just are humble get more forgiveness. People that are prideful, not so much. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the duplicity of the treacherous destroys them. Duplicity means you can't make up your mind. You're one way and one way another. Duplicity. You're duplicitous, an unstable man, double-minded man. You can't make out. One moment you want to do right, one moment you want to do wrong. Integrity is something that is consistently, that's what it's integrity. You can count on it. That metal has integrity. That building was built with integrity. It's dependable. You don't have to wonder, is it going to make it? It has integrity.
Yeah. You are what you represent to be. Duplicity. I've known people that make all kind of alliances, right? The British did it in Israel, 1947. They made a covenant with the Jews and made a covenant with the Arabs. Like, well, which one are you going to help? You make all these promises. You go on this side, you go on that side. You're treacherous. You're stirring up conflict and you will be destroyed because now everybody's turning on you. You can't serve God and the devil. Yeshua said you can only serve one master. You will either love the one, hate the other, be faithful to the one, and betray the other. You have to be single-minded to serve the Lord and do His will. You cannot make multiple oaths.
That somehow or another reminded me of a friend I was ministering to and somewhat mentoring, and his lifeguard. And he invited me to his house. And I was there in his house, just hanging out, talking, eating, just being friends. And then somebody comes to the door. It's his younger brother. His younger brother comes to the door, and his younger brother looks at me and goes, "Steve, what are you doing here?" His older brother looks, "Wait, you know Steve?" He goes, "Wait, you know?" They are brothers. They each had a friendship with me, but that was my first time going into the house where they both connected the dots. Wait, well, I met Steve at the gym. Well, I met Steve at the beach, and I ended up becoming friends with both of them, who they were never together. It's in life, you meet people, you don't know who's related to who. I'm hanging out with the one at the gym whenever I go to work out, and I'm hanging out with this one whenever I'm running in the sand at the beach, and next thing you know, I'm in the house finally with the lifeguard who wanted me to visit, and then his brother comes through the door. It's like, whoa, I know him too. And he said, well, I know. And it was beautiful because there was nothing duplicitous in the negative sense about it. In fact, we all started hanging out together. And it happened with two other friends who helped to sponsor my mission trip to France. I met one in the cleaners. I met one in the grocery store. Two different days or weeks apart. One day, one of the friends asked me to come to his house for a get together, a party he was having, and I could share with everybody that came to the party. They weren't believers, but they met me and wanted God, and then invited me. Next thing I know, I go to the party, and there's this other guy that I had met at a grocery store, and both of them were best friends who knew me separately, and all of a sudden we're together. And the idea of what duplicity can do, brothers who know, and they're not separating, they're not trying to divide. They weren't competing for my relationship or affection and mentorship, but were in joy and excited that they both had the benefit of being in ministry with me. It's wonderful. On the day of wrath, wealth doesn't help, but righteousness rescues from death. Yeah, on the day of wrath, no matter how much you make, listen, this is the 2012 disaster movie. How much money you have doesn't matter. We all are in the same boat.
Well, in the movie, actually, it did make sense because men made the movie, so they made it look like if you're a billionaire, you can buy your seat on the ark. Didn't work that way with Noah's ark, though. The Lord does not care about your bank account, He cares about your heart.
Yeah, well, when the Titanic went down, yeah, how wealthy they were. There's a lot of wealthy people on that boat. The worst part is some of the poorer people were stuck in the lower deck. But God has a justice that is not prejudiced or biased to how you look, what your title is, where you live, how much property you own. None of that. It is righteousness that rescues us from death. The righteousness of the innocent levels their way, bulldozes those stumbling blocks out of the way, but the wickedness of the wicked makes them fall. The righteousness of the upright rescues them, but the treacherous are trapped by their own intrigues. When the wicked man dies, his hope perishes. What he hopes for from evil comes to nothing. The righteous is delivered from trouble, and the wicked comes to take his place. With his mouth, the hypocrite can ruin his neighbor, but by knowledge, the righteous are delivered. That's why you got to watch people that talk behind your back to other people that spread gossip and talebearing. Watch out for people like that. That used to be something just known for women to do, but in the Bible talks about the women that do that. But the men are giving them a run for their money in the modern world. When the righteous prosper, the cities rejoice. And when the wicked perish, there is joy.
Well, the righteous one is the one giving, supporting, helping, donating. He's the generous one. He's righteous. Righteousness is one. If there is one category of righteousness, it's not my righteousness and yours. Righteousness is by God's measure, and that is to support and help and uplift and build. So yeah, the people do rejoice, except for those who are jealous.
By the blessing of the upright, a city is raised up. Yeah, because when there's upright in the city, good happens. They say evil prospers when good men do nothing. Yeah. So if you want to know why some of the ministries are suffering and don't have support, why some of the children are dying of hunger, why some of the homeless, because righteous and people that could, when it's within your power to do good, do it, don't do it. And that's part of the judgment of the righteous. What did you do and why didn't you do it? By the blessing of the upright, a city is raised up, but the words of the wicked tear it down. Wicked people will destroy. Righteous people come to build. They invest in righteousness, not profit. They invest in righteousness. He who belittles another lacks good sense. Wow. Don't belittle people. Whereas a person of discernment stays silent. A gossip goes around revealing secrets. Some of you, particularly in this conspiracy era that we live in, constantly love to find out something and then blab it out. Keep your mouth shut. Not everything is meant to be known. But a trustworthy person keeps a confidence without clever tactics. No, trustworthy. Stop asking questions about other people's private lives. Mind your business. What somebody else is doing or not doing, or why and what, don't worry about it. Stop being nosy about other people. Without clever tactics, an army is defeated, and victory comes from much planning. Makes sense to me, especially in this time of war. He who guarantees a loan for a stranger will suffer, but refusing to underwrite is safe. You got to know the people. Common sense again. A gracious woman obtains honor. Aggressive men obtain wealth. Well, that sounds about right. And there's lots of aggressive men and not enough gracious women. A man who is kind does himself good, but the cruel does harm to himself. When you're cruel, you think you're hurting the person, you're hurting yourself. When you're kind, you're doing for others, you're actually doing good for yourself. So you say, oh, you help me, you're so good. Well, I actually am good for myself. The more I do for you and the more good I do, the better I am. Ah, the profits of the wicked are illusory. meaning that they're not really. But those who sow righteousness gain a true reward. See, profit you make in business, that's nothing compared to what the righteous get. Genuine righteousness leads to life. Well, the fake righteousness we talk about. But the pursuer of evil goes to his own death. The wages of sin is death. The crooked hearted are an abomination to Adonai, but those sincere in their ways are his delight. Back to the true scales. Depend on it. The evil will not go unpunished. You can count on this. You're not getting away with anything. But the offspring of the righteous will escape. Like a gold ring in the snout of a pig is a beautiful woman who lacks good sense. The righteous desire only good. God, delight myself in the Lord. He shall give me the desire of my heart. And you think that means getting a car and a house and a new business. Delight thyself in the Lord, and he shall give you the desire of your heart. The righteous desire only good. But what the wicked hope for brings wrath. Some give freely and still get richer. You ever know somebody, they don't hesitate. They don't hesitate to give. And they get richer. Someone needed some money for food last night. I need. I'm behind in a lot of stuff that I need right now, but the little that I did have, I sent them what they asked for, even though I'm still trying to raise support for my mission. However, nonetheless, I sent them what they asked for and a little more on top of it, not just what they asked. I've always made a principle thing in my life that whenever someone asks for something, I add a little more than what they ask. I don't just give what they ask. I give a little more than what they ask. And I never give it as a loan. Some give freely and still get richer, while others are stingy, but grow still poorer. Don't be stingy. Be rich in your spirit. The person who blesses others will prosper. That's pretty much self-explanatory. He who satisfies others will be satisfied himself. Make somebody else happy today. Surprise somebody else today. Do something, not just because someone asked. Watch what it does to you. The people will curse him who withholds grain, but if he sells it, blessing will be on his head. He who strives for good obtains favor. Strive. That's not easy. You got to make an effort. But he who searches for evil, it comes to him. Don't worry, you'll find it. That's why you got to stay out of those liquor stores and those strip clubs and those gentlemen clubs and those brothels and those Vegas gambling tables and those drug dealers' houses and those cannabis stores. He who trusts in his riches will fall. Well, you can have riches. It's fine to have riches. God is not against riches. So don't confuse what we're saying here. Don't trust in it is the point. We talked about that earlier. Can't trust in that. But the righteous will flourish like sprouting leaves. Those, those who trouble, hallelujah, those who trouble their families inherit the wind. The fool becomes slave to the wise. Oh, wow. Let's not get down that rabbit hole. That's another 45 minutes to talk about the troubling people in your family. And particularly if you are a faithful follower of the Lord. And the fool becomes slave to the wise. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life. Now, the fruit, meaning bear fruit. A tree is known by the fruit it bears. Why is it a tree of life? Because you eat from it and live. Oh, thank you for my friend lost someone very dear last night. And I dispensed to him some words, fruit of my mouth. And in his sadness and in his hurt, his loss, he came back with his heart being full of life. You have an opportunity to dispense life. They may not want it. You can lead a horse to water, can't force him to drink. You can give them opportunity. You can be a source of life and people won't even call you to hear your words. And he who is wise wins souls. I was able to baptize 3 young men. I've baptized many throughout my life. I've led many to the Lord. And it's the wisdom I prayed for when I was 11 and 12 that allows me the grace to be able to do that. If the righteous are paid what they deserve, here on earth, how much more the wicked and the sinner? How much more? You're not going to get away with it. You will get what you deserve. See, it is the Lord that giveth power. It's the Lord that increases. He that winneth souls must be wise, but it's the Lord. No one comes unto the Lord except he's drawn by the Spirit. He has to be drawn by the Spirit, and then they have to do what? Be willing. They must submit. That's a willing part that you play. You have to submit. You can be drawn. You can be invited to the wedding chamber and say no. Come to the wedding banquet, and say no. And come dressed and properly. Enter that wedding party drunk. You're going to get kicked out. You got to come right. You've got to come clean, come prepared. And it's so beautiful to know what Papa does in these moments with us. And it's so convicting to read these wonderful words. And doesn't it convict you as it does Guy and I? Don't you feel convicted? Isn't that a beautiful conviction? Don't you feel inspired? Don't you hear this and don't you want to immediately stop listening and start practicing and doing better? Don't you want to just turn this off and immediately start putting into a practice and to affect everything you just heard? Isn't there a rush after watching a karate movie when you were a little boy? Can't wait to get out of the theater and start practicing, even what you saw on the screen. You've got the adrenaline of the excitement of being able to do what you just saw. Now you want to put a cape around your head and jump out of a window and like your backyard, like I tried to do. I saw Superman fly, a little kid. I thought maybe, wow, I can't wait to get home and tie a sheet around my neck, my shoulders, and jump. Doesn't it make you want to get in the fight? Doesn't it make you want to give? Doesn't it make you want to pray? Doesn't it make you want to share? Hallelujah.